It is January the 28th. This is video number 11, and the subject is Mr. Davenport and his friends. Here's what happened. I have a very good friend who I'm calling Mr. Davenport, not his real name. He wants to keep his privacy, which I respect. Um, he's had a very interesting background. It's very unusual. He started out in business. He's in his early 70s right now, so he's had a long career. He started out in business and quickly rose into management because he's just got one of those personalities that works really well with people. He's just got that gift for working well with people. So he went into human resources. He then rose, every place where he went, he rose right to the top. He went right to the top. He was a manager on a factory line, and then he became the boss, and then he went to, three different companies. The last one was a hospital health organization. And he's been at different times a COO, Chief Operating Officer, CFO, and sometimes the CEO. So he's always been at the top of his field, always. That's one person. Then there's my husband who went to college, undergraduate, and then went to seminary. So let's see. I'm trying to count up the years of higher education just to make a point. So let's say Mr. Davenport had 4 years of undergrad and I'm not sure 2 years or 3 years. Maybe let's call it another 4 years and make it an even eight of higher education. Undergraduate, then graduate. We'll call it eight. I can check back and get a better number. But that's pretty close. Then there was Terry, 4 years plus 3 years of seminary, that's seven. And then there's me, the worst of all, probably 10 years of higher education because 4 years of undergraduate for the bachelor's. And then I went to graduate school and I was working on a PhD. And what I did was I completed probably well, not, I don't know what the percentage would be. I never did the orals or the dissertation, but I did all the coursework, which is actually a lot more credits. It's 15 more credits than the master's degree. So I've got like 10 years. I've got 10 years of higher ed. This really sounds bad. Oh my God. So let's see, that's 15. That's like 25 years of higher education between all of us. Watch out for that amygdala. Watch out for fear. Fear will 86 you every time. Fear will grind you down. Mr. Davenport, in addition to being a musician, an accomplished musician, and an accomplished writer. He's been published. I wanted to show you his book just to prove to you that he really is who he is, but he wants to keep his privacy. And if I show you his book, you'll know who he is because you can see the name on the book, obviously. So I don't show you the book, but he's published. And actually, the book is doing pretty well, actually. So good for him. So bottom line is he's a very intelligent, very accomplished human being. And he's got the resume to prove it. That's Mr. Davenport. Then there was Terry, Father Terry, who went undergraduate, did very well, and then went to seminary. So that's an advanced degree. And then there's me. I went to undergraduate, got my BA, and then I went to graduate school and I was working on a PhD, but it got derailed by my getting married to my first husband and moving to Germany. And the internet was not developed in the 90s. You couldn't do things remotely like you can do today. It was nowhere near what it is today. So that kind of was the end of that. And I just couldn't make it happen between having to get the materials, the books, the articles. We tried it, but it wasn't practical and it would have been so incredibly expensive that we just had to give up. Well, that's fine. The point is we've got three three accomplished individuals, all of whom have higher education, not just a bachelor's degree, higher education. So what happened to Mr. Davenport's the one where the computer screen went black and a message flashed and said, "Call Microsoft, you have a virus." Beep, beep, beep. Now, where does the fear come in? The fear comes in. Where's my wedge? Where did I put it? The fear comes in. I gotta have my wedge. It's very important. I have my wedge and my little F. Fear. The wedge was fear, and what was he afraid of? Mr. Davenport, who is, as I said, a published writer, the F bomb, fear. He was afraid of losing his data on his computer because it's been a lot of years of writing and a lot of work, and he's got some things that are in the pipeline that are not published yet. And he didn't want to lose his data. He's a writer. He didn't want to lose his data. So that was his fear. And that's why he called the number as instructed. And before he knew, and this was the strange thing, somehow they got into his computer and managed to extract his bank account number. Because what they said to him was very odd and very worrisome. They said to him, they called out a number, right? And they said, can you verify that this is actually your checking account number? So they had the number. They just wanted I love that word, verification. I hate that word. They wanted him to verify that it was the right number. Because I guess, I don't know why. If they were going to fix the virus, do they need his bank account number? No. Or maybe I really don't remember now. Maybe they said to him they wanted to protect his bank account. They usually lie, and they're a lot of these scams. They're making you think that you're going to lose money unless you hand over your information to them because they're going to protect you. In reality, they're the thieves. So he was afraid he was going to lose his data, and he gave them. He didn't give them his number. He verified the number for him. The next thing you know, $8,000 is missing from his bank account. And that's what happened to Mr. Davenport. And then with Terry and myself, and this is where they get you, I guess it's your weak point. I was working at a very small private school and making almost no money. But it was a fun place to work. And but the point is I was tired. I'm normally a high school teacher. When I'm not teaching college, I'm teaching high school English. One subject, not all of them. But because it's a small startup religious school, they kind of bend the rules a little bit with certifications. And they had me teaching third grade, which exhausted me to a point I cannot express to you. I was always tired. So I'm driving home from work when the call comes in. I have a stupid Bluetooth on my car with my cell phone, and Bluetooth call comes right into my car. So I answer the call, and they claim to be Atlantic City Electric, and the trucks are outside your house right now. We're going to shut off your electricity. Now, why was I afraid? Because my husband, Father Terry, bless his heart, he was a good man, and he did a lot of good for people. He had a lot of things to recommend him, or I wouldn't have married him. But there was one thing about him. He had a hellacious temper. And if his electricity went off, he would have thrown a conniption fit of the century, because he had his TV, he had his internet, he had his radio, his phonograph, all of the things that he was always hooked into all day long. And since he was retired, he could do what he wanted. And he was always had the TV on constantly. One of those people, the TV is always on and the radio's on. And all these things are all this input, all this, and it's all electric. So all I could think of was, if that electricity gets shut off, there's going to be hell to pay. Now, here's where it got a little real, like I thought there might be some legitimacy. Because the electric bills had gone so high, and most of it was what he was doing, because he had those mini splits in his hobby shed, and the mini splits are heating and cooling, and they pull a lot of juice, and the electric bills were skyrocketing. So I said, all right, you want to do all this with these mini splits and all the stuff you're doing, you're going to pay the electric bill. It's going to be in your name. So on the Atlantic City Electric account, online account, I put a note. This was input for me that was legitimately real. I put a note and said, I would like to transfer this account over to my husband's name. Never heard from them. And then a week or 2 weeks or something later, I get this call while I'm driving home from work, already exhausted. I was in a weakened state because I was exhausted. I still had my husband then, so I didn't have widow brain, but I had exhaustion brain. I had teacher brain, third grade teacher brain, high school teacher fish out of water brain. So I panicked. The amygdala took over. I panicked so hard and so bad that I did almost everything they told me to do. The first thing they said, they wanted me to go to, and then they claimed, they even had they transferred the call over to these guys that sounded like they were in a car or a truck or something. And they say, see, I'm going to let you talk to the technicians. They're right outside your house in the truck. They're ready to cut it off. They're going to cut off your power. I was so afraid. I was so afraid of what would happen if the electric did go off. My husband would throw, I didn't want to deal with the conniption fits. I just didn't want to deal with it. I was tired from work, all the time tired from work, and I didn't want to deal with that. Now, here's what's really stupid. I have I have direct payment. I have automatic payment. That bill could never have been late because it was automatic payment. It's you can set this up. It takes the money right out of the bank and goes to the company, the electric, the gas, whatever it is. You can do auto pay. So I had auto pay. How the hell were they going to shut off my electricity when I had auto pay? I wasn't late. I'm never late because I have auto pay. And it didn't occur to me to make that connection. You see what happens when, I mean, we're talking about people with 3 people with advanced degrees, and none of us picked this up. None of us picked this up. It's so stupid. So it didn't occur to me to ask them, why would you cut off my electric when my bill is never late? What would you have the right to do that? Well, instead he tells me to go to this very sketchy business, a local business that's in a very sketchy neighborhood and a very sketchy looking business. And he said, I want you to buy Bitcoin. So I go to this place, I drive to this place, and then I look at this Bitcoin machine. I'm thinking like, and I'm on the phone with this guy, right? And I'm saying, you know what? I'm not putting my card in this thing. I don't even know what this is. What's Bitcoin? I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I'm not going to do this. And he said, go, okay, go to, he knew he had me. Somehow, what do they call you when they know you're coming home from work and exhausted? Is that what they do? They time it? I don't know. He said, all right, go to Walgreens and get gift cards. $500. And in the meantime, I called my husband and I said, Terry, put $500 into my account because there's not enough in there at the moment to pay these people and make sure the electric doesn't get shut off. So Terry does it. He never stopped to ask me, don't you have direct deposit? Nobody stopped to, neither one of us stopped to think, how can they cut off your electricity when, now here's the thing that was semi-legitimate. I was thinking that they read the note that I left in the online account. Please put this in my husband's name. That's what I was thinking. So that was a little bit of a grounds for something. So I go to Walgreens, but it still wasn't right because they never contacted me. The only way to do that, they can't just transfer an account over. I would have had to cancel my account and he'd have to start up a new account. I don't think you can just transfer one name to another. I don't think you can do that. So anyway, so I go to Walgreens, and thanks be to God, the manager, who was young and is with a very well working brain, he said, ma'am, I want you to look on the back of these gift cards. You see what's written on the back? That these are used for scams. So he said, let me talk to them. So he gets on the phone with the electric company, and he asked a very interesting question. He said, when did you start accepting gift cards for payment? Click. Well, I felt like a dumbass. And Terry felt like a dumbass. We all felt like dumbasses. So the moral of the story is if something like this has happened to you, we had a combined educational quotient of 25 years of higher education, of college education and beyond college education. Advanced degrees, all 3 of us, and we fell for these things. So, you know, the amygdala is a powerful force. We've got to keep it under control. That's the only answer. Fear is the F-bomb and the wedge. See, the wedge. So that's the story of Mr. Davenport and Terry and me. And that's all for tonight because I'm tired and I'm going to bed. And have a wonderful evening. Peace out. And be careful out there.